And yes, we're back one more time with another stimulus check update for you. And basically tonight we're talking about the next stimulus bill phase 4 vote results are in today, about the second stimulus check update and second stimulus package update for July 30th of 2020. And make sure you watch this video all the way to the end. That way you won't miss out on the special bonus I have in store for you and the special vote results that we have that are into also as well. If you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the channel using the subscribe button below, and give this video a like also as well, thumbs up, so that way YouTube can promote the video as much as possible and promote the channel. We need as many thumbs up as we can get on this video, and leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think about everything that is going on too also as well. Well, the first thing that we have up for today in the news for stimulus checks are a proposal from a group of Republicans on what the next stimulus check should be. So basically, a second set of stimulus checks, yes, could be on the way, but in the deal hasn't dried up yet. The ink on the deal hasn't dried up yet. So on today, a group of Republican senators, they introduced a bill that would lower the sum the government sends out to $1,000. Yes, they want to lower the amount of the stimulus check to $1,000. Now, previous Republican and Democrat proposals have called for $1,200 checks to adults and $500 checks to dependents, that is. Now, under the terms of the new bill, the $1,000 checks will be sent to all Americans regardless of their age or dependent status. Both adults and dependents would need to have valid Social Security numbers in order to receive the money. Now, under the bill, a qualifying family of 4 could potentially receive $4,000, which that would be $600 more than they would have received under the CARES Act. Now, the bill is called the C word. That's the word that YouTube doesn't want me to say. Pandemic Sickness Assistance for American Families Act. It was proposed by Senators Bill Cassidy, a Republican from Louisiana, Steve Daines, a Republican from Montana, Mitt Romney, a Republican from Utah, and Marco Rubio, a Republican from Florida. Now, unlike the CARES Act, this proposal would include all adult dependents, including college students and individuals with disabilities. Now, Americans who are married to foreign nationals would also be eligible, but individuals who are foreign nationals or who file their tax returns with individual taxpayer identification numbers, or ITINs, would not qualify. So would that proposal actually be included in the next bill? I believe it's highly unlikely, even though there are many Republicans who are still against even the idea of giving another stimulus check out to Americans. It's hard to tell. It is possible that the amount could be dropped to $1,000, but my opinion, I think not. Now, as far as more on the second stimulus check updates, the Senate is leaving D.C. for the weekend without acting to extend the $600 a week expanded jobless benefit. And the White House and some of its Republican allies in the Senate are signaling that they want to extend, at least temporarily, a $600 per week expanded jobless benefit that's helped keep families and the economies afloat during the C-word sickness pandemic. And the move looks to be too little too late to prevent the lapse of the benefit officially on Friday. Now, Republicans have been fighting to trim the $600 benefit in the next package, but President Trump and some Senate Republicans suggested they could accept keeping the full $600 benefit for now, like in a temporary bill. Now, late night talks were expected at the Capitol tonight. We wanted a temporary extension of enhanced unemployment benefits, Trump said at the White House. This will provide a critical bridge for Americans who lost their jobs to the pandemic through no fault of their own. He added it has to be substantial. But Democrats have so far rejected a piecemeal approach, saying the next relief bill needs to move as a complete package. But before Trump spoke, top Senate Republican Mitch McConnell adjourned the chamber for the weekend while taking a procedural step that could allow voting on a potential compromise next week. So talks so far have yielded little progress. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, he said, "I'm not very optimistic that we will have any kind of agreement on a comprehensive bill in the near future." He said he even doubted a deal could be struck by next week. Now, talks on the relief bill are at a standstill with few reasons for optimism, despite sweeping agreement among Washington's top power players that Congress must pass further relief in coming days and weeks. Now, Trump is eager for another round of relief, and it's also a priority for GOP allies like McConnell, as well as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and top Senate Democrat Chuck Schumer. Democrats hold a strong negotiating hand, with Republicans badly divided over their own proposal. Raising the stakes, a weak government report released Thursday said the economy shrank at a 33% annualized rate in the second quarter of the year. And that's a stark reminder of the economic damage afflicting the country as lawmakers debate the size and the scope of new relief. Now, Neil Bradley of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, a powerful business group, said this jarring news should compel Congress to move swiftly to provide targeted and temporary assistance to unemployed Americans, employers, and state and local governments, and liability protections for businesses who follow public health guidelines. But bipartisan talks have yet to reach a serious productive phase. Democrats are playing hardball, insisting on a package that's far larger than the $1 trillion plus measure unveiled by McConnell on Monday. Thursday brought more tit for tat. They won't engage, period, McConnell said as he opened the Senate. The Democrats are saying my way or the highway. Now, Pelosi and McConnell have an extensive history, however. They often find ways to reach deals, though the process involves intense maneuvering and plenty of crosstalk. In an interview late Wednesday, McConnell showed a willingness to consider some Democratic priorities like additional food aid, like food stamps. He and Trump have made plain that they are intent on getting a bill. McConnell said on the PBS NewsHour, the economy does need help, more help. We have divided government. We have to talk to each other, and we have to try to get an outcome. Schumer continued his daily fusillade against McConnell and Republicans controlling the Senate, noting that McConnell refuses to go in the room and joins the talks in person. Instead, he wants to send Mark Meadows, the White House Chief of Staff, along with Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, to do the negotiations for him. We're trying to negotiate, Schumer said. So what's holding things up? In another signal that Republicans are preparing to yield on the $600 jobless benefit, Arizona Republican Martha McSally, who is facing a tough re-election race this fall, ordered a one-week extension of the benefit on the Senate floor. This is what she offered. Now, Schumer blocked the move. Pelosi was dashing back to Washington after having traveled to Atlanta for the funeral of Republican John Lewis, the civil rights icon. Pelosi's office announced a meeting for tonight with the White House negotiators. Other stark differences remain between the $3 trillion proposal from Democrats and the $1 trillion counter from Republicans. Money for state and cities is a crucial dividing line as local governments plead for help to shore up budgets and prevent deeper layoffs as they incur costs and lost tax revenue and shut down economy. So basically, also what's going on now is that Trump is basically testing GOP and Republican loyalty to him. And he made an election tweet and about the stimulus strategy too also as well. And it's been reported in the Hill. Now, the way President Trump has been testing the loyalty of his Republican allies on Capitol Hill, it's at a time when his weak job approval numbers, really weak, have the lawmakers increasingly concerned that he may lose re-election and drag down their Senate majority with him. Now, Senate Republicans have largely stuck by Trump during his time in office. While they criticize the president from time to time, they mostly avoid publicly confrontations, even though a good number of GOP lawmakers are willing to express their critical judgments privately. Now, on Thursday, however, they decisively broke with Trump over postponing the November 3rd election, which Trump floated as a way to guard against what he says is the danger of vote-by-mail fraud. Senator Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, he flatly dismissed the idea of delaying the general election when asked about it during an interview with Kentucky television. Now, McConnell told Max Winitz, the lead evening anchor at WNKY 40, never in the history of Congress, through wars, depressions, and the Civil War have we ever not had a federally scheduled election on time, and we'll find a way to do that again this November 3rd. When Winitz asked whether the November 3rd election date is set in stone, McConnell responded, "That's right." The GOP leader said, "We'll cope with whatever the situation is and have the election on November 3rd as already scheduled." Now, McConnell made his comments after Trump warned on Twitter that with universal mail-in voting, the 2020 election will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. The president went on to tweet, "Today, the election until people can delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote," the president tweeted. Now, Trump has maintained strong Republican support on Capitol Hill because of his popularity with the GOP Republican base, but that loyalty is being tested, and his approval numbers slide amidst a pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. Now, Vin Weber, a Republican strategist, said Trump's tweet was an unforced error, likely prompted by the president's growing concern about his diminishing chances of winning a second term. "I think the president is really worried about his reelection. That's really coming through," he said. "Whatever spin the Trump people put on poll numbers and claiming it's fake news and all that stuff, Trump knows he's in big trouble. And I also think that it's that fear that he's falling behind and may lose that caused him to make that really stupid comment about delaying the election," he said. "I say stupid because it absolutely does him no good." Trump's approval rating slipped to 40% this month, according to a polling average combined by 538.com. Public approval of Trump's response to the pandemic is in the 30s, according to some poll. The economy, which only 6 months ago Republicans saw as the president's strongest argument for re-election, has cratered since March. Gross domestic product dropped by 9.5% in the second quarter, making for a 32.9% annual rate of decline. Now, Trump's weak numbers have begun to weigh on Senate Republican incumbents. Senator Johnny Erst, a Republican from Iowa, who abruptly stopped speaking to reporters in the hallways of Capitol Hill, was trailing her Democratic opponent, Teresa Greenfield, by 3 points in a Des Moines Register poll last week. Senator Republicans feel confident in January that Ernest would cruise to re-election, but now her prospects in a state where Trump's approval rating is underwater look iffy. With C-word infections across the country spiking, the national economy stalling, and polls turning against the president and members of his party, Republican senators on today recoiled against Trump's suggestion of breaking 175 years of tradition and changing the date of the election. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham, a Republican from South Carolina who golfs with Trump, is one of his closest Senate allies, even panned Trump's suggestion to delay the election. I think delaying the election probably won't be a good idea, he said. McConnell and Graham are both up for re-election this year. While they are running for re-election in staunchly Republican states, they're both facing well-financed opponents in an unpredictable political environment. Other Republicans across the party's ideological spectrum weighed against Trump's proposal. Senator Ted Cruz, a prominent conservative Republican from Texas, said election fraud is a serious problem and we should fight and stop it, but no, we should not delay the election. Senator Mitt Romney, a Republican from Utah, a prominent, moderate, and outspoken Trump critic, told reporters the election will be held on a day set by Congress and a historic date. The nation has held its presidential elections on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November since Congress passed the Presidential Election Day Act in 1845. Now, Trump is further testing Republican loyalty by pushing for another massive stimulus relief package, which Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows are negotiating with Democratic leaders. While Trump doesn't seem concerned by the possible impact on the deficit, opposition is steadily growing within the Senate Republican Conference to another multi-trillion-dollar package. Senator Jerry Moran, Republican of Kansas, said it needs to be narrower and more directed, more focused. I have yet to get the justification for the long list of things included in the bill and why they're related to C-word sickness. Moran, the chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee on Commerce, Justice, Science, and Related Agencies, said he was given little advance notice of what spending items under his jurisdiction would be included in the relief bill until it was publicly revealed. He said, if this is the beginning point with my concerns with where this bill is now, it only gets, from my perspective, worse with more spending and spending much more broadly outside the specific needs of the C-word sickness recovery, he said. Republican senators have become more critical of the negotiations between White House and Democratic leaders in recent days. Senator Ben Sasse, Republican from Nebraska, released a statement Tuesday warning that Mnuchin and Meadows are ready to strike a deal with Nancy Pelosi that would add significantly to the debt. We have two big government Democrats, Secretary Mnuchin on behalf of the Trump administration and Speaker Pelosi on behalf of binge spending politicians everywhere playing gross games with your kids' money, he said. He accused the White House of trying to solve bad polling by agreeing to indefensibly bad debt. Weber, the Republican strategist, said Trump is not on the same page as many GOP lawmakers with regards to the size of the next relief package. He said Trump wants the biggest stimulus package, the biggest stimulus he can get, and he doesn't care what it looks like. So basically, also what's going on here is Trump is worried about him losing the election in November. That's why he's coming out, as he did yesterday, saying that he wants the stimulus checks to be bigger than what the Democrats want, and he wants more money. He wants bigger stimulus, a bigger stimulus package. Now, most of the swing state voters are basically what's going to determine whether or not Trump wins the election in November. Now, as Congress is debating how to shape the next phase of the C-word sickness relief, most voters in the 6 swing states, they want lawmakers to continue to aid that help keep Americans afloat through the early stages of the economic crisis, according to a new CNBC Change Research poll. Now, the poll was released yesterday, surveyed likely voters in Arizona, Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Now, those states will help determine whether President Donald Trump can defeat his Democratic challenger, Joe Biden, in November's presidential election and whether Republicans keep control of the Senate. Now, a majority or 62% of voters in those states support extending the $600 a week enhanced federal employment insurance. Only 36% oppose continuing the benefit, which states stopped paying out last week. The survey found widespread support in the swing states for other stimulus spending measures as well. 4 and 5 respondents said they back another direct payment of up to $1,200 for people making less than $99,000. Only 18% oppose another round of checks. More than two-thirds of voters, 68%, support relief for state and local governments facing budget shortfalls due to the pandemic versus 28% who oppose the aid, the poll found. Only 32% of respondents back giving corporations immunity from lawsuits related to the C-word sickness, while 58% oppose such protections, according to the survey. The poll surveyed 2,565 likely voters in the 6 states from Friday through Sunday. It has a margin of error of plus or minus 1.9 percentage points. Now, Congress is divided over how much money to spend to try to combat the health and economic crisis created by the C-word sickness, but the poll shows strong support for more federal stimulus. The unemployment insurance extension, assistance for states and municipalities, and a liability shield for businesses and doctors are among the thorniest issues officials need to resolve in talks between Republicans and Democrats. Now, negotiators hope to craft a pandemic aid bill that can pass the Republican-held Senate and Democrat-controlled House. The GOP unveiled its opening offer on Monday called the HEALS Act, and talks then started between the Trump administration and the top congressional Democrats, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. The Republican legislation would slash the extra federal unemployment benefit to $200 a week on top of what recipients get from states through September. It would then shift to a 70% replacement of an individual's previous wages. The GOP contends the $600 a week benefit. It prevents people from returning to work because many people who are on it make more money at home than they otherwise would have working. Democrats want to extend the benefit at least into next year, saying the government should not cut off income at a time when roughly 30 million people are receiving some form of unemployment insurance. Now, the Republican plan for direct payments largely mirrors the one Congress passed in March as part of a $2 trillion rescue package. It would send up to $1,200 to individuals, $2,400 to couples who make less than $198,000. It would also provide $500 per dependent regardless of age. The Republican proposal would not allocate any aid to states and municipalities, instead giving them more flexibility on how they spend relief money approved earlier this year. House Democrats included nearly $1 trillion in state and local assistance in the bill that they passed in May. Now, in addition, it calls for liability protections for businesses, doctors, schools, except for cases of gross negligence or willful misconduct as they try to operate during the pandemics. Now, Democrats have generally opposed legal immunity for companies. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, a Republican from Kentucky, has called the provision a red line in discussions. Negotiations have already taken on a more bitter tone than talks that led to relief packages earlier this year, in part due to the fact that the presidential and Senate elections are just over 3 months away. Okay, so we all heard from Trump yesterday how Trump was urging the Congress to pass the stimulus package and give Americans more stimulus check, and also to stop the evictions by extending the eviction moratoriums to also as well. And I'll just reiterate what Trump told reporters on the south lawn of the White House yesterday. He said basically you got to work on evictions so people don't get evicted. You work on the payments to the people. The rest of it, we're so far apart, we don't care. We really don't care, right? So that was a statement made by Trump yesterday. Trump also went on to say, we want to take care of the people. The Democrats aren't taking care of the people. The payments aren't enough. They're not making the payments. They're not making them high enough. They're not making them high enough. The Democrats are not taking care of the people. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi takes care of herself, but she doesn't take care of anyone else. You look at what's going on with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. So when Schumer and Pelosi can get together and take care of the people, we'll do something. In the meantime, we want to stop evictions. Now, another thing I wanted to mention too before I go on to what you've been waiting for about the Senate vote today on the stimulus package. We have some more news from Kamala Harris, who is in the headlines once again. And she went on a show, on her news show with Joy Reid, The Readout, right? The Joy Reid's new show. And she was basically pitching Vice President Joe Biden's Build Back Better plan for economic recovery and racial equality. And she's in a Forbes article here, today, where she's talking about her plan with Senator Bernie Sanders and Senator Ed Markey to provide $2,000 a month in stimulus checks to Americans, and also student loan forgiveness of $10,000 for borrowers with federal student loans due to the C word sickness. So somehow Kamala Harris just seems to make it right back up into the headlines once more again. I guess she's keeping the $2,000 a month recurring payments in the spotlight, in the public view. So that's good news. Who knows? Will it happen? I don't know. But it's more possible that it could happen in the future if it stays in the spotlight, right? Now, let's move on to the Senate vote today. Okay. So Mark Meadows made a statement, and he said, we're so far apart on a longer term deal right now. Now, basically, why is it important that Mark Meadows said that? Well, because as far as the negotiations going on between the Democrats and the Republicans in the Senate, Mitch McConnell has not been making the in-person negotiations with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, right, and the Democrats. Who has been making the negotiation? Well, basically, it's been Steve Mnuchin, the Secretary of Treasury, and also Mark Meadows, the White House Chief of Staff, who have been making the negotiations on behalf of the Republican Senate with the Democrats. So that's why it's very important, whatever we hear from Mark Meadows and Steve Mnuchin, so that way we know how the negotiations are going. So basically what happened with the Senate vote is today the Senate voted 47 to 42 to begin a debate on a House-passed stimulus bill next week. Okay, so that's really good news. Now, that makes it easier to eventually reach a potential compromise that would extend the unemployment bonus benefit, while talks on a broader relief measure grind on. However, the vote meant that the Senate left Washington without extending $600 a week expanded jobless benefit that's helped keep both families and the economy afloat as the C-word sickness pandemic continues to wreak havoc in the country. Now, Friday's expiration of the $600 jobless benefit sent Republicans controlling the Senate scrambling to respond. Now, White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows told reporters today, "We're so far apart on a longer-term deal now that even if we said yes to a longer-term deal, you could have weeks of negotiation without getting the common ground. But negotiations have so far rejected this piecemeal approach, saying the next relief bill needs to move as a complete package. Any short-term jobless benefit extension of less than $600 a week is likely to be a non-starter with the Democrats. Now, talks on the relief bill are at a standstill with few reasons for optimism, despite sweeping agreement among Washington's top power players that Congress must pass further relief in the coming days and weeks. Now, President Trump is eager for another bill, of course, because the last time the stimulus checks went out, President Trump's poll numbers just shot up, okay, and made him almost tie with Joe Biden in the polls, or maybe a point or two above Joe Biden in the polls. Right now, he is trailing by numerous points, and I'm talking double digits. Now, it's also a priority for Republican allies like McConnell, as well as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, top Senate Democrat Chuck Schumer as well, and Democrats hold a strong negotiating hand with Republicans badly divided over their own proposal. Now, raising the stakes, the economy shrank at 33% in the second quarter of the year. Okay, but bipartisan talks have yet to reach a serious productive phase, and Democrats are playing hardball, insisting on a package that's far larger than the $1 trillion plus measure unveiled by McConnell on Monday. Now, today just brought more tit for tat. McConnell said as he opened up the Senate, they won't engage, period. The Democrats are saying my way or the highway. So basically, that's where we stand right now as of today. I know I gave you guys a lot of information there, but that at least we have some good news, right? The Senate has voted today to begin debates on a stimulus bill put forward from the House. So this is really, really extremely good news. Now, they did not mention which bill it is, okay? Could they be talking about the HEROES Act? We don't know. The House has put through more than one bill since the CARES Act was passed back in March. So let's just cross our fingers. Hopefully this will all play out, and they will come to some type of deal between the Republicans and the Democrats. And I tell you now, they're the Republicans are pretty much, knocking down almost everything that Trump is proposing right now. Okay. Trump proposed that he wants the stimulus checks to be larger than what the Democrats wanted, which was the $1,200. The Republicans knocked that down in their HEALS Act bill released Monday, saying the stimulus checks should be $1,200, right? So that was knocked down, okay? Another thing was Trump wanted $1.7 billion for an old federal building to be refurbished, right? Because he didn't want the property to be available so that a competing hotel could move in and compete with his Trump hotel, which is not too far away from the building. And McConnell just knocked that down totally. He said it will not be included in the next stimulus bill at all. Okay, so it seems like here everything that Trump is proposing, his own Republican Party is fighting against him right now. So, I mean, we have Trump and the Republicans not agreeing, okay, disagreeing, and then you have the Republicans disagreeing with each other about whether or not we should get stimulus checks. And then you have the Republicans and the Democrats disagreeing on the unemployment and the business liability insurance. So it could be getting very interesting. Now, we know when it comes to negotiations, it's always good to hold your ground and stick to your guns pretty much when you start and begin negotiations. So negotiations have just begun this week. So hopefully tomorrow and next week, we should see some agreements. We know now that Mitch McConnell is now agreeing to give more aid for food for families. Now, he could be referring to food stamps, which we know in the HEROES Act, it gives an extra 15% payment for food stamps. Now, I believe the Democrats will also be negotiating in their negotiations also the hazard pay for essential workers. Why? Because they included that into the HEROES Act that they passed in the House of Representatives in the middle of May. So when they present that to the Republicans, I believe that, yeah, the Republicans may be kind of squirmish and will not want to do the extra spending, but just for the simple fact that knowing that if they do not pass a stimulus bill that helps out the people, that they could lose the entire control of the Senate in November and the presidency also as well. I believe the Republicans will come to an agreement with the Democrats, and the Republicans will fold. Okay, they will cave in. They will begin to compromise on not only hazard pay, but many other things too also as well. So that's all I got for you here for tonight. And make sure that you click the link down below to join our Facebook group so you can get more stimulus check update information. And while you're in the description, you can use the arrow below the video. Make sure that you look for the links for free money and other helpful resources also as well. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed using the button below. We need as many thumbs up as we can get to also as well be very helpful. So from all of us here at the How to Get an 800 Credit Score family, stay safe, be blessed. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. See you tomorrow. My name is Lyndon Baptiste, and on this channel we talk about ways to increase your credit score, build credit, and get approved for the lowest payments on mortgages and lines of credit, travel the world for free, earn extra money with cash back. And if that interests you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. That way you'll never miss a single video as we make